This video is quite different from all the usual ones that I've done, because in this one I'm taking a night drive in my Tesla Model 3. I actually was driving in the conditions which are not usually suited for autopilot. I'll be discussing how I run my autopilot, how it works at night in a rainy environment in suburban routes. So I'm not driving on the freeway. Apart from that, I'm discussing the safety and security improvements that Tesla has done via software updates, and there's three major updates that I'll be discussing in the video. And apart from increasing the safety, they also are very good in enhancing the user experience. So without further ado, enjoy the video. As you just saw, the car actually slowed down, although I don't have full self-drive system activated in my car. So that's one of the features that was activated in my car. It's been, I believe, 3 or 4 months since I realized that there's a feature like that, when if you actually entered a map in your navigation system and there's a turn coming up, the car actually slows down for that, even if you're on autopilot or the traffic aware cruise control. And it's quite a neat feature because I don't use sound for my maps, and this feature is quite helpful in making sure that sometimes you're not paying attention to the road and you're just driving past the turn that you are actually meant to be taking as per the navigation. So slowing down on before the turn actually gives you indication that something's happening, and I'll actually demonstrate it again. On this route there's not many turns. I'll actually change the lane and we'll see if I can recreate the scenario, because there's a right turn coming ahead, and if there's no car in front of us, and we should see the slowdown of the car. Let me actually put it on autopilot. There's actually another good feature that just came. Did you see the red marking on side of the camera feedback? So let me try and explain it again. When in your camera, if you have an option turned on that when you indicate, the camera feedback shows up. If there's a car next to you in your blind spot, we were not getting any warnings, which, like, look at that, the car just slowed down. And it's not reacting to the red light, I tell you that. It's reacting to that there's a right turn coming ahead, and that's what it's reacting to, which is great. Like, for a scenario like these ones, obviously there's a T-point, so you would know that you have to take left or right. But in scenarios where you're going straight and there's a left turn coming ahead for your navigation, it's quite helpful. And I've actually never missed a turn after this feature was activated, because and to be honest, I use the navigation even though I know where I am headed. I know the way to that place, but I tend to use the navigation more and more now. So I'll actually show you that feature of blind spot, I think, trigger when you indicate now, and if there's a car in your blind spot, the camera feedback does have a red indication, which is quite good, and I don't have to stress about sort of missing the car in my blind spot. And as you can see, if you are stopped, it doesn't give you that feedback of red. But I think if you are driving, as you saw, if you're driving fast enough and there's a car in your blind spot, it gives you that indication that there's a car in your blind spot. Please be careful. Prior to that, like initially when I got the car, the camera feedback wasn't there, so I was doing the traditional head checks. I still do them, but it's for my safety and my just keeping my good driving habit rather than the need. Now I don't have to look there, I can just look at the screen briefly and would know there's a car in the blind spot, which is fantastic. And that brings me to the topic of like the safety of the car. I believe when you're buying a car in 2024 or 23 or even any recent years, there's a lot of I think thought that we give to the NCAP rating and things like that. But to be honest, having a car with good NCAP rating is great, but for a car company to pay attention and improve your cars, especially the way Tesla does it over the air, software updates, or even making physical changes to the car, it's quite good. And this is a trend now, because I've got a BYD now, and they also did some changes over the air which are more than welcome, and they do improve the driving experience, if not the quality. So coming back to Tesla, I believe they are one of the better car companies who respond to the needs of safety as well as the user feedback. And one other feature which Tesla's introduced was a way you can actually turn on the autopilot by just using a single pull. Now, the usual way of using the autopilot is by pulling your gear lever down twice. So if you do it once, it activates the traffic aware cruise control. If you do it twice, it activates the traffic cruise control with auto steer, or we can call it autopilot, right? So I personally believe the reason they did it was because people who are driving Teslas and they were maybe transitioning from other cars, or they were not used to the system yet, or for whatever reason, they were getting confused that is the autopilot on or not on. And that could be, I can give you an example of one of those scenarios. Like, for example, I just take a right turn now, and as you can see, I indicated I'm still on cruise. I changed the lane, but now I'm on cruise, but I was on autopilot. So sometimes, as you can see, even if I leave the steering, it's going to go straight, right? There's I think the car's driving in a straight line, the road's fairly straight, so the car keeps on driving straight. And for such scenarios, sometimes you tend not to remember that the autopilot is on, especially when you're driving on autopilot for a while. I personally don't, I've never sort of found myself in a scenario where I thought the car's on autopilot, but it wasn't. But I can understand it to be a real world scenario, and there's that blind spot monitoring again. I'll wait for it to go away and then actually turn. Yeah, so I was saying I've never found myself in the scenarios where I wasn't aware that I'm not on autopilot, but I've read multiple articles where people just blamed their accident on autopilot, and this could be one of the response from Tesla, like they actually switched it and gave an option to switch it to a single pull option. But there's some negatives about if you activate that option, right? So currently, if you do it once, your car's on traffic aware cruise control. If you do it twice, it's on autopilot. But if you use a single pull, there's no cruise control option. So either you can have your full self-drive or autopilot on, or you can have it off. So as soon as you make the turn or do any sort of maneuver, maybe take control of the steering wheel, it just takes you off the system. And that could be good for those people who are getting confused between if they are on autopilot or cruise control, and it's actually good for the safety of the vehicle, the passengers, as well as other road users. Because if you are not aware of what's happening with the car, it's quite easy to get into trouble, especially with the instant acceleration of these cars. And yeah, that's another safety, I think, upgrade that I've seen Tesla do. Although they never revealed it, why they did it and what's the need, what's the feedback. But think about it, like if someone gets into an accident in a Tesla and they just blame, I was on autopilot, like how hard it would be for the cops or the authorities to actually get hold of that information and use that. And let's say it's a big accident and authorities reach out to Tesla to get that information. It's a waste of time for a lot of resources. And if it could be avoided by such simple sort of upgrades and features, then it's a welcome change. Like, I won't be using it, to be honest, but I can see people using it if they are only using autopilot, for example. They never use traffic aware cruise control, so it's a one gesture less for them to do. And the other, I think, good part would be if your car does have a full self-drive, right? Then you don't need to worry about pulling it twice. You can just do it once, and it's an easier transition to full self-drive. So those two scenarios is something which I believe are good for the use cases. But apart from that, I don't think it's a useful feature especially for my needs, because I like the car driving on autopilot most of the time. So if it's a new area and I'm not too sure about the lane markings, then I usually put the car on the traffic aware cruise control, which would mean the car slows down if there's a car in front of you and so forth. So I think this is one of the reasons they introduced it. And yeah, that's, I think, 3 things which Tesla's done One was slowing down your car if there's a turn coming up in your navigation and you're not aware or you're not paying attention enough. Then it's even harder to miss the turns now, even though you don't have the voice notification on of saying there's a turn coming ahead or whatever. And the other thing is blind spot monitoring turning red, and that's actually quite helpful because it's more in your face now. Earlier, you have to pay attention to the camera and the feedback. Now, as soon as you see a red, it's not exactly similar to the, I believe, blind spot monitoring that you have in your mirrors, but I reckon it's better because in Teslas you have to look at your screen either way for checking your speed and other things, so you can get quite used to the system. And I've actually, to be honest, I've gotten used to this blind spot system way more than what it was earlier, and or the system that we have in our BYD. It does have the blind spot monitoring in the mirrors, where if there's a car next to you and you indicate, it's gonna sort of flash, and that's good, but this is better in my opinion. And I actually saw that car's bumpers torn off. It's a peep later, so I'll just park it somewhere else. And I do miss the 360 camera that the BYD have, to be honest. Like in these scenarios where you are in a tight drive-through bay, it's easier to maneuver, because in here I can see what's happening at the back, but not exactly sure where the tires in the front are. But with the BYD or 360 cameras, it's easier to spot. So let me just give my order quickly and I'll get back to the video. Tesla's a great company, let alone a great electric car company, and I still love my Tesla, and I don't think there's a replacement when it comes to tech and the improvements it does. It doesn't matter if BYD is selling more than Teslas as per the recent surveys, but Tesla does have a reputation when it comes to electric cars, and that still holds true. And I'm sure there's going to be other car manufacturers who would be selling more, but there's a certain brand reputation that comes with Teslas, and if you're into tech, any sort of tech, you would love your Tesla. And they are still the fastest cars, production cars in my opinion, especially when it comes to reasonably priced ones. Like you can buy a BYD, but the base versions are a bit slower in here. Like this is a base version of the standard model Tesla Model 3, but it's still fast enough. But not for long maybe, because the performance version of BYD Seal is around $70,000, where the Teslas are selling for over $90,000, I reckon. So in that aspect, things are changing and companies are doing better. But I still believe Tesla and its reputation would be, I think, up there for a while. And the best part about Teslas is like they keep on changing things. As soon as they realize something's not working or something could be made better, they just do it. For example, when we actually bought our car, we were meant to have a standard range Model 3, but when we ordered, it was a standard range Model 3. Before we actually got our car, they replaced the standard range model with just Tesla Model 3, and by doing that, they increased the battery size, and compared to I think 55 kilowatt hour, they increased it to 60 kilowatt hour. That gave 40 kilometers extra range. So Tesla, being a amazing company that they are, they actually upgraded our cars, and we got the both benefits, like because the new motor was slower, it was doing 100 kilometers per hour in 6.1 seconds. Ours still does it in 5.5. So we got the motor which is faster, and we got the bigger battery in our cars, which is perfect. Let me just grab my order. So yeah, the order's not ready yet. So I was saying that we got an upgraded car, and this is something which we came to know later, that it's called a unicorn model, because you won't be able to get it off the normal ordering process. Just the next lot that came actually had heated wipers, and that goes to the theme which I was discussing, that Tesla does see a opportunity to make something better, and they do it. But you can still see like the stop sign as well as other warnings, but 360 cameras is way better. And this is just to reaffirm what I was saying. Like, Tesla's not doing everything right, including I was saying that they make the changes to make the cars better, but they've done things which have made it worse. For example, taking down the ultrasonic sensors. I don't think there was a move that's been appreciated by any Tesla user or fan. Because when you look at the reviews from many people who's got the Tesla ultrasonic sensors, it doesn't work as well as the others does. And that's to do with, like, it's not detecting the exact distance which your car would be showing, and it's harder to park in the spot where you don't actually see how far the obstacle is. And so it's not like Tesla does everything better, and they haven't actually made a decision to bring back the ultrasonic sensors or something like that. They just want to improve their camera tech to actually detect it better. And Tesla, being the amazing software company that they are, the entire car system is based on how good the interface and the experience of driving a Tesla is, and that's mostly to do with software. Just like we saw the introduction of the blind spot system. Like, think about it, we didn't have the cameras to begin with. Now we have a camera feedback as soon as you indicate, along with the blind spot thing, which is just fantastic. And the camera quality is actually quite good. I haven't seen the new V3. Is it called V3? Whatever the new system is, with the better hardware for the cameras. I believe they are feeding back in 1080p now. This one is 720, I reckon. But this works fine. Like, it's clear enough. I've never had a crazy incident with my car where the car didn't detect anything, or like, I'll show you how I actually use the car on autopilot, and it's even harder for sometimes you to see the lanes, but the car does an okay job of actually detecting them, even if it's raining like heavily. So in this sort of scenario, I just take the car out to cruise control, and it's sort of a game where you want to actually time it well. I didn't, obviously, at this time. I'm pressing the accelerator to go forward, but it should be like you take the car off the cruise control at the time that it uses the braking system along with the regenerating braking to slow down the car and stop it before the lights, right? So now we are back on track, and I just turn on the autopilot again, and that's my usual way of driving it. I prefer to drive it on autopilot wherever I can, and for, I think, road conditions like this, it's fine. I don't see any issue with the lanes, because there's not too many turns on this route, and hence I don't need to be away from the autopilot. And as you can see, there's a turn coming up. So, like, look at it go. It's keeping the lane dead center. I believe there's some issues that's going on with the photo rain sensing system that Tesla uses. Apparently they use the cameras to detect how much rain is there, but I've never sort of had too many issues with it. But apparently, like, for example, again, I'll maybe take off the cruise control now. I think this is a bit better, and we're still short. So I could have waited for maybe a couple of seconds more, and then ideally your car should use the regenerative braking to stop you there, not 5 meters back. And then again, you're back on track. Put it on autopilot and you're good to go. Another light. So let's try waiting for a bit longer. Maybe a bit longer, but longer. Wow. I think too late. I'm gonna break it. It's a fun car to drive. Like currently I can compare it with a BYD or any other new-aged car, but before that, it's one of the best cars that I've ever owned, and it still is. I can't wait to get my hands on the Highland version of the car. Look at that. The acceleration is there. It's still grippy in this weather. It's like it's more than enough power for you to explore and use in a normal scenario. I had an issue with one of my headlights, and Tesla was good enough to replace the entire assembly, but for whatever reason, the technician who visited actually adjusted the headlights, and they are facing way down now. And this is a well-lit stretch of the road, but if I'm in a dark scenario, it's very annoying and it's very unsafe, from my opinion. It's just that I don't drive the car in dark scenarios that often now, so it's not been such a big issue for me yet. But I'm planning to actually log a service with Tesla to get it fixed. I'll create another video where I'll discuss all the issues that I've had with my Tesla so far and how I approached it and how I got them fixed. Or did I actually got it fixed from Tesla or got it fixed from other providers? I'll cover that as well, because it's not always a good option to reach out to Tesla and get your problem fixed. So I believe that's a lot of information for one video, and I still love the Tesla for the software updates and the upgrades they bring, and looking forward to getting a better car with every upgrade is something exciting, and it genuinely feels like a new car every time something major happens, like the one that I just showed that your blind spot monitoring. I'll show it once more. Look at that, so cool. I shouldn't be doing it if I'm not turning, but it was, I think, second up there was just one car. So thanks a lot for watching the video. I'll share my experience of my BYD Atto 3's first drive, and it wasn't a good one. When I was actually driving it back home, I had my worst fear of buying a car realized, but I'll surely cover that in the next video. But until then, take care, drive safe, and I'll see you in the next one.